After discussing the factors that influence managerial perception in our last video, now we are here to discuss some of the importance of managerial perception. Here are some benefits you may experience for focusing on managerial perceptions. First one is showcases your best attributes. While understanding how others see you can help you pursue opportunities that effectively showcase your strengths. Once you learn how others see you and your qualification, you can choose projects that enhance your strongest traits. For example, learning that others see you as collaborator can create an opportunity for you to pursue additional collaborative roles or projects. This can strengthen others' perception on you and help you to reach your goals. Second is about creating opportunities for improvement. Managing others' perception of you can also allows you to understand area of for your improvement. If you determine that your co-workers find you quite, for example, you can see opportunities to speak out in your meeting or other gatherings. Before capitalizing on these opportunities, consider determining how you would like others to perceive you and comparing it to the way they currently perceive you. Third is about allow you to develop relationship. Once you understand how others see you, you can bring to seek out relationships with those who may be like minded or who perceive you as being good, worthy person. Can you also seek out relationship with those who might not perceive you as a positive of light in the hopes of improving your relationship with them? This can be especially helpful if you are a leader. If you are in a leadership position and you want to develop strong relationships with those who work under you, learning how they perceive your leadership beforehand can help you to determine how to effectively approach the relationship that is also related to relationship building skills. Next point is about promotes self-reflection. Another benefit of managerial perception is that it promotes the ideas of learning about your strengths and weaknesses and using them to improve as an employee or a leader. Although several factors may influence others' perception, and these perceptions may differ depending on the other. You can see or you can use the opportunity to understand how people see you and reflects on which behavior or action can cause them to feel the way. The process of managerial perception requires a deep thought about your behaviors, interactions, habits, responses, and decisions. Think regularly about these aspects can help you become an intentional and thoughtful works. In the next topic, we are going to discuss the management applications of perception. Managerial perception is a process that allows you to understand your how your own behavior, words, appearances, and choices influence how others see you. Within a professional settings, these perceptions can present opportunity for advancement if you understand how to manage them. We'll discuss them in brief. The first one is employee motivation and engagement. Perception of leadership. Managers need to understand how employees perceive their leadership communication as well as their decision making mostly. The positive perception can enhance motivation and engagement, while negative perception can lead to disengagement and lower productivity. Perception of fairness. Fairness is distribution of rewards, recognition, and opportunities affects employees' perception. Perceived unfairness can lead to dissatisfaction and demotivation. Second is conflict resolution, the perception of conflict. Manager must behave or must be aware of how different parties perceive conflicts. Different perceptions of issues can ex- exaggerate conflicts and make resolution more challenging. And in performance management or evaluation, perception of from performance management feedback, it is how employees perceive the feedback affects their willingness to improve. Constructive feedback received as fair and helpful can enhance performance, whereas negative performance can lead to resistance. Whereas performance evolution, an employee's performance appraisal dramatically depends on perceptual process. The performance appraisal represents an assessment of an employee's work, which, while this can be objective, many jobs are evaluated in subjective terms. Subjective measures are by definition and judgment. The evaluator form are a general impressions of an employee's work. What the evaluator perceives as good or bad employee characteristics, while significantly influence the appraisal outcome. An employee's future is closely tied to the appraisal performance, pay raises, and continual of employment are almost the most noticeable result. Next is about organization culture. Perception of culture in this employees' perception of organization values, norms, and practices shape the organization culture. Managers influence these perceptions through their actions, decisions, and communication. In behavioral application of perception, there are social interaction and perception and communication. How individuals perceive Verbal and non-verbal cues affect their interaction with others. Behavioral application focus on improving communication clarity and empathy to manage perception effectively. Next is about decision making, the perception of information. Behavioral economic studies how individuals perceive and interpret information to make decisions. Applications involves presenting information in the way that influence perception to guide decision making towards desired outcomes. Customer relations, perception of service quality. Organization manage customer perception of service quality through effective customer service interaction, branding and marketing strategies. Positive perception leads to the customer satisfaction and loyalty. Next is about learning and development. That means the perception of learning. In educational and training settings, learners' perceptions of the relevance and effectiveness of learning materials impact their engagement and retention. Behavioral approaches ensures the content is presented in the way that optimize perception and learning outcomes. Next is about the strategies for managing and applying perception. Clear communication. Ensure message are clear, consistent, and tailored to the audience to manage perception effectively. Empathy and understanding. Consider other perspective and emotions to influence perception positively and interaction. Next is about transparency. Be open and honest in organizations. Practices can foster the trust and positive perception. Feedback and mechanism also plays a role that provide opportunities for feedbacks to understand and address perception effectively. Next is about training and development that also equip managers and employees with skills to manage perception and behavioral responses effectively. By integrating management and behavioral approaches of perception, organization can enhance employee satisfaction, improve decision making processes, strengthen customer relations, and foster positive organization culture conducive to growth and success. Next is about employment interview. An employment interview is a significant input into who is hired and rejected in any organization. Evidences indicates that interviewers often make accurate perception judgments. Discussion, discussions generally drawn early impressions but that become very quickly entrust. Even negative information is exposed early in the interview. It tends to be more heavily weighted than if that same information come out later. As a result, information that comes early in the interview carries a greater weight than the information proceed later. A good applicant is probably characterized more by the absence of unfavorable characteristics than by the presence of favorable traits. The employment interview is an essential input into the hiring decisions, and the managers must recognize that the perception factor influences how is hired. Therefore, the quality of an organizational or organization's labor forces depends on the interviewer perception. Next is about performance expectations. A manager's expectations of an individual affects a manager's behavior towards the individual and the individual response. An impressive amount of evidence demonstrate that the people will attempt to validate their perception of reality. Even when these perceptions are faulty, this is a particularly relevant when we consider performance expectations on the job. The term self fulfilling prophecy and the effect has sought to characterize how people expectation determine their behavior, and the managers can harness the power of the proficiency effect to improve organization productivity. This high expectation of an individual comes true, and the managers can extend these high expectations of individuals on to an entire group. When the managers expect positive things from a group, the group delivers. Similarly, if a manager expects people to perform minimally, they will tend to behave to meet these low expectations. And thus, the expectations become a reality. Next one is employees' loyalty. Another critical judgments managers make out employees as a loyalty to the organization. Few organizations appreciate employees, especially to those in a managerial rank, openly despairing the firm. The assessment of employees' loyalty and commitment is highly judgmental. That means what is perceived as loyalty when one may be seen as excessive by others. An employee who questions a top management decisions may be seen as disloyal. Some employees call whistleblowers who report unethical practices by their employer to authorities inside or outside the organization. Typically act out of loyalty to their organization, but they are perceived by management as troublemakers. Last one is impression management. Most of the people want to make favorable impressions on others. Impression management is the process by which individuals try to control the image others have to of them. This particularly true organization where individuals compete for jobs, favorable performance evaluation, and salary increase. Some impressions management techniques are in organizations that are Name dropping is a technique that involves mentioning an association with essential people to improve one's image. Flattery is a common technique where compliments are given to an individual to win their approval. Favors are also used to gain the support of others. Agreeing with someone's opinion is often used to achieve a position of impression. Mostly the subordinates or the team members always agree on the decision of the leaders. Managing one's appearance is another technique for impression management. Individuals dress carefully for interview to look the part to get the job. Self description or statement about one's characteristics are also used to manage impressions. Impression management has an impact on others' impression. This process can benefit organization as long as the image are accurate. However, if the impressions are false, a strongly negative overall impressions may result. Furthermore, excessive impression management can lead to the perception that the user is manipulative or sincere. Next, we are discussing the case study, that is managerial performance and decision making. In this, John is a seasoned manager at a mid-sized manufacturing company that specializes in electronics. Over the part of the past years, the company has experienced a decline in productivity and employee morale. Despite implementing various strategies and initiatives, the result has been mixed. And John is concerned about the future trajectory of the company. And the issue that are being identified is productivity decline. Key performance indicator reflects to productivity such as output per employee and production cycle time have shown a downward trend. Second is about employee morale. There is an increase in absenteeism and turnover rates. Employee team disengaged during meetings and are less proactive in the suggestions and improvements. There are also many changes in managerial perception. Managerial perception. In this, John's perception as a manager is crucial in understanding how he interprets and responds to these issues. That is, the perception of productivity decline. There are the subpoints in these, that is, cognitive filters. John, being an experienced manager, tends to attribute the productivity decline to various factors such as outdated machinery, inadequate training, and insufficiency in the supply chains. And second one is about selective attention. He focuses more on immediate production figures rather than underlying systematic issues that may be contributing to the decline. Second is about perception of employee morale. It also have two subpoints, that is attribution bias. Jones John tends to attribute the increase in absenteeism and turnover to external factors such as competitive market and economic conditions rather than internal factors such as leadership style or organization culture. Second is about confirmation bias. He may selectively interpret employees' feedback or behavior that confirms his existing life beliefs or about the moral rather than considering alternative perspectives. The third one is perception of market competition, which is further more divided in few factors. First one is competitive farming. Jones perceived the new competitors as a direct threat to the company, market position, and profitability, which influence his decision making towards defensive strategies rather than innovative approaches. In perception of market competition, second point is risk perception. He may overestimate the risk posed by competitors and underestimating the potential benefits of strategic partnership and market expansions. Decision making process. Based on his perception, Jones decide to implement the following strategies. That is operational improvements. He invests a new machinery and technology to improve production efficiency and reduce cycle time. He also added employees engagement initiatives, introduced employees recognition programs, training sessions to boost the morale and engagement or encourage the innovation. Thirdly, the competitive response. Lower price to match competitors offers temporarily while focusing on product differentiation and customer services to maintain long-term competitiveness. As he focused more on customer services, evaluation and adjustment. After implementing these strategies, Johns monitored of the following outcome, that is productivity. Initial data shows a modest improvement in production metrics, indicating that the new machineries and operational changes are being to yield results. Employees morale. There is a slight decrease in absenteeism and turnover rates. The employees seems more engaged during meetings and team activities. Market positions in this, the John analyzed that the companies managed to retain its core customer base despite the competitive pressure and the customer satisfaction level and remain stable. As stating all the points, we end of the conclusion that is through this case study, it become evident that managerial perception heavily influence decision making processes. John's perception of productivity, employee morale, and market competition shapes his strategies, initiatives, and resource allocations. That is, adding a new machineries, adding innovative sessions for the employees. However, it is essential for managers like John to continually change their perceptions, consider alternative viewpoints, and adapt new strategies based on ongoing evaluation and feedback to ensure long term success and sustainability of the company. In the conclusion, understanding managerial perception and context of decision making provides a valuable insight into how managers interpret and respond to organization culture and ultimately shaping the trajectory of their company. In this video, we have tried to discuss the importance and application of managerial perception.